Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Don't Get Your Hopes Up. I'm Josh Allen, a.k.a. Law, and joining me here today, as he always does, Mr. Mike B, a.k.a. Fony.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah.
You seem a little bit confused. Why don't you just come and sit down over
Yeah,
here for just a minute?
That voice is really, that's really creepy. Like, I'm not sure if this is really working, but we're gonna keep going with it. We're gonna keep on pushing. First person that laughs loses. Alright.
I'm laughing on the inside.
This is fucking creepy. I can't fucking do this, man. I can't do this.
April Fools.
What is that fucking voice, man?
What is that voice?
That is really, really like.
It's a vague interpretation
unnerving.
of Herbert from Family Guy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not quite right, but it's my take on.
Being as creepy as possible.
That's really, really, really creepy. Yeah.
Hello, internet. April Fools.
We got you guys.
We got you guys. You thought that's what we sound like.
Man, you thought the show was run by other people. Except I'm actually going to be talking like this for most of the show.
Yeah, we got you so good. Except that Mike B is dead. So, boom.
Boom.
Don't get your hopes up. Podcast, etc., etc.
April Fool's special.
April Fool's special edition.
The hopes
which
are
is
up
to
edition.
say, yeah.
Yep.
Get your hopes up. Yeah. I hope you aren't expecting much because that's what you get.
Yeah.
So, to kick off this episode, speaking of creepy things, by which I mean speaking of the sort of thing you do when you're desperate for money, you started a Patreon, didn't you?
Wow.
Dang. Twisting the knife. But no, I was like, that's actually going ridiculously well. You actually have one of the more successful Patreons than I've seen right now. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah. According to this chart site that this guy linked on my subreddit, it's actually number 1,000. And I can imagine there's probably a lot of...
there's a lot of buy me beer every week Patreons.
Yeah. And like, it's funny. So I did a lot of research, man. Like I did so much research because I wanted to make sure if I'm going to do it, I wanted to do it right. And then I totally fucked up because I completely lowballed how much it would grow, like how quickly it would grow. I had all these goals set up, and like it was like I would think, I was like, okay, yeah. So for this goal, we're gonna do this and this, okay, and then for this goal, this and this, and like I spent all this time figuring out the tiers, make sure they're right and everything, so that people that are pledging that they feel like they're getting their money's worth, and it completely blew those things out of the water. Like I could have just said, how about nothing until 1,000, and then from there I'll spend time building stuff. But it's been incredible. It's been really, really incredible, and of course, like, we do the announcement and it's like, it's going really well. And then I'm completely sick. Like I'm just fucked up sick. I can't even, I posted like a quick kind of update and I sound like this the whole time. Like worse though. It was like this, but with like boogers in my mouth. Right.
Delicious.
And it was just like, hey guys, thank you so much for pledging, but I'm probably going to take a break for a minute. Yeah, it was really bad. So,
yeah, I listened to the first like 3 minutes of that and then took my headphones out.
Yeah.
I could have just stopped it, but it didn't seem appropriate.
Yeah. It's been great. The love and support has been like, I'm still like, holy shit, like I need to like hit the ground running here, especially next week. Once like I'm 100%, like actually start, kind of delivering on those, deliverables. making it a thing. But so far, it's going really great.
Nice. Yeah. I gave you $1.
I saw that.
Don't spend it all in one place.
I'm not sure if that's possible. I mean, we're about to try.
But yeah, no, it totally shows that, like, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but it's cool to have like a direct example of it, of when you set something up like a Patreon or a Kickstarter or anything, all of these sort of like crowdfunding campaigns, when you set one up right, like it pays off to set it up right.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the amount of work that you put in and like making sure the tiers were all right and everything. I've seen so many Patreons that are just like, once I get to $10,000 a year, then I'll quit my job. And it's like, that shouldn't be goal one. It shouldn't be a goal at all, really.
Yeah.
Like $10,000 a year is your only income, really, bro?
Like, like even like Jim Sterling has an interesting. So when you're doing like market research in general, and you're doing all this stuff, and you're collecting data, you always have these outliers, right? It's like, okay, everyone's doing this, but then there's this fucking guy, right? Jim Sterling has like no goals. He has one tier. It's $1 tier. And he gets like 10 G's a month. And it's like, he even says, he's like, I don't need tiers. I don't do all this stuff. Just pay me and I'll keep making videos. And I mean, that's the TLDR of it, right? And it works. And I was like, you know what? That works with Jim Sterling. I don't think that's going to work for me.
Yeah, that's one of those, you kind of already have to have the audience for that.
Exactly.
Like, not that $1 is a big deal, but people won't go through the trouble of giving you $1 if they don't know who you are.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So before we move on, do you want to talk about what your next Patreon goal is and do a little self-promo?
I mean, you could just go to patreon.com/akmikeb. And you could see.
I've never been here before.
The goal for the next one here, which we're approaching very shortly, which means I need to do something for the next one because I really plan ahead. Is basically put some of these shows in rotation, but not like, I don't want to just like necro these old shows, because like when was the last Tets? Like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or something like that. It's been a while. I could see Tets still being an entertaining show, and I might do a one-off just to show people like this is the state of the game right now, and this is where we're at. But I think that there's definitely a market there for user-generated content focused shows, because the focus of Tets is like, here's some amazing and here's a collection of really amazing, and at the same time also a collection of really shitty creations from people that think they know how to make stuff in trials, and that exists fucking everywhere. Like everywhere there's mods, you could find something. It's like, really, like somebody actually spent time to build this thing and put it in the game.
Like the guy who made a first-person shooter in Trials. Like, why would you do this?
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff like that. So I think starting with those and then kind of evolving them, I think would totally work.
Yeah, and like Fallout obviously has a whole bunch of mod potential for it.
Yes.
Like if half of the Skyrim modders if a quarter of the Skyrim modders pick up Fallout, then there's going to be a ton there. And lots of other games can do some pretty great. Like even like StarCraft has its whole arcade thing, which has some cool stuff in it. I definitely think a UGC focused show would be very, very interesting, just because like it'd be entertaining just from the same reason that Tets was entertaining, when it was like someone came up with this, like you were just saying. So I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I'll bump my $1 up to something that's more reasonable.
Tree Fitty.
Tree Fitty, yeah. Yeah.
They don't actually accept Tree Fitty, actually. I tried putting it in and it rounds it down to 3. But what's funny is you can pledge $3.50. And so you don't see it, but I see it in like the stats that there's like 5 smartasses that are like $3.50.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, speaking of 50 Cent, by which I mean speaking of Bulletproof, by which I mean speaking of the complete polar opposite of Bulletproof, Fallout 4 survival mode is not easy.
No, it is not.
It is not easy.
There's definitely a groove that you need to find in it, but it's a very, very tedious and treacherous groove to be in. Like, okay, I'm just gonna stay near my base and explore and come back. Keep coming back for like water. And then I go down and I have to take bottles that disappear when you use them, by the way.
Oh.
Do you notice that?
No, I haven't actually figured out yet how to put water in bottles. I've just been building, like, making sure that I'm close to some place where I can build a water pump. Yeah. And then I'll sit there at the water pump for 5 minutes or however long it takes, actually.
Yeah, there's definitely gonna be mods that come in to kind of ease up on certain things, but honestly, like, I think the only thing I would change right now is how bottles disappear when you use them. So if I collect 3, like, let's just say empty Nuka-Cola bottles, and then I go down to the river and I fill them, and then you take 3 Nuka-Cola bottles and you can create 1 bottle of purified water. Those 3 bottles are gone. And then when you drink your purified water, that bottle is also mysteriously gone. Yeah. So there needs to be, and I get it, like, they don't want you to just have like an endless supply of water, but it's going back and forth. But at the same time, they need to come up with some kind of other mechanic, because you having water on the go is completely reliant on you coming across 3 empty bottles.
Yeah, and like so the way it should work, I think, is like you wake up, you eat breakfast, basically.
Yeah.
You rehydrate, you eat something in the morning, and then you sort of like pack up a whole bunch of stuff and say, okay, I'm going to go out and start doing some Fallout, which is what that's called, I guess. I'm going to go out and go do this quest or whatever. I'm just going to go out into the world and do things. And so I've got to pack up for my journey, because that's what would make sense, basically. Yeah. Kind of like how in DayZ we used to be like, right, okay, we found a water pump. Quick, everybody fill up your canteens so that once we're up at the airfield and you get thirsty, you can just drink something and you'll be fine.
Yep.
So that there definitely needs to be a more direct method for you to actually do that. And things like bottles disappearing kind of makes that basically impossible, because you have to, like, on your way back from whatever it is you were doing, you have to pick up a whole bunch of empty bottles on your way. Like, you can't, it's just weird that you drink stuff and, like, you drink a Nuka-Cola and it puts a bottle cap in your inventory.
Yeah.
But you throw the bottle away. Yeah. I hate this. Fuck this thing.
This incredibly valuable bottle.
Yeah. So it's like a Viking or something. Like, you drink it and go rah and crash it on the ground immediately.
Yeah. And food is plentiful. Like, food is everywhere. You just walk around, look at a bunch of mole rats or whatever, and you take them out, and now you have like days worth of mole nuggets or whatever they make.
Yeah. I do kind of wonder if the need to eat and drink is a little bit too accelerated at the moment, or if it's a matter of the food that I eat doesn't affect it enough. So, like, the reason I say this is my character was thirsty. And this was, like, right as soon as I started playing. I got to the first little town, which is, like, where you're from originally. And my character was thirsty. So I was like, okay, I guess I should... I was parched, which is just the first level of being thirsty.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess I should drink something. I found some purified water in the vault. Okay, I'll drink that. Full bottle of purified water, doesn't affect anything. Okay, I also found a Nuka-Cola. Full bottle of Nuka-Cola, doesn't affect anything. I'm like, what the fuck? And I, like, found some some, like, dirty water or something. I drank that too, and I was like, nope, still thirsty, still parched. And eventually that's when I started I'm just gonna build a water pump and stand at this water pump for a while. And it took me forever to actually get, like, I probably pumped 6 gallons of water before I was no longer parched.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like, this doesn't, it's not adding any difficulty by making me need all of this stuff. It's just making me have to go back to a building or to camp all the time.
Yeah.
Which is annoying.
I wish they would take the, so first off, I think that, like, the difficulty is actually great. It's fucking hard.
Oh, it's like really hard.
You get slapped like once and you're done.
Yeah.
But but yeah, the tediousness of water consumption and all that is I think if they were to take a page from like Project Zomboid, where you get to see the stats of if I pick up a soda bottle, right, it'll tell me how much nutrition or whatever it'll give me, hunger or thirst. Like Nuka-Cola doesn't really give me any thirst. Like it should give me at least something, you know?
Yeah.
There should be an overlap there. And I should be able to see the numbers. And that's the thing. It's like right now, it's like they're just these like 5 markers on a list, you know? And it's like, okay, parched. Slightly more parched or whatever the other steps are, right?
Yeah.
I want to see like 0 to 100. Like this is where I'm at right now.
Like a little bar or something.
Yeah.
It's like, here's how far you are from being thirsty.
Yep. So that way when it pops up and it's like -1 endurance or whatever, it's like, well, do I need to drink a whole bottle of purified water, or is that going to be extreme overkill?
Yeah, and like the gaps between some of the later ones are pretty substantial too. Like, it took me about 30 seconds of pumping water to get from parched to no longer thirsty. Mm-hmm. When I wake up after sleeping for 8 hours, I can pump water for a good minute or so before it actually gets me like, how the fuck much water do I need to drink? And like, that's the thing that's weird about it to me. That's the thing that kind of makes me scratch my head a bunch, is because I feel like in this it's supposed to be like a realistic survival mode, right? Like it's supposed to make you feel like you're actually doing what needs to be done to survive in this apocalypse, which is great. But I feel like when it's more of a pain in the ass for me to survive in this game than it is for me to survive in real life, and I'm not even talking about how I have like raiders and shit trying to kill me. I mean, like literally, if I'm just standing there, if I'm just sitting around doing nothing, it is harder for me to keep myself fed and watered in Fallout right now than it is for me to do that IRL.
Yeah,
and I live in SoCal, man. There's no water anywhere.
I think the bottom line is the water is the adjustment. I think if they nail the water just right, we're good, because food is great. Sleep, I think sleep is fine. Like having to sleep to save, I think is fine. The diseases are great. Like, I mean, I went and I got parasites or something from drinking from the river. And it's funny, like I was telling somebody about it, you know, they're like, oh yeah, I don't like Fallout 4. And I was like, well, Fallout 4 Survival 2.0 is basically like they took Oregon Trail and put it in. Like every other thing you do, you could contract some disease or just die instantly because something attacked you.
Suddenly dysentery.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's definitely very, very hard. The one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about with it, I don't have a ton of time spent into it just yet, partially because I keep dying. But the one thing I'm a little bit concerned about is that in Fallout, it's kind of like in the normal mode of the game, or even the old survival mode, which is now called very hard mode, I believe. There's kind of this early on, the game is really difficult, and then eventually you get a good gun and some decent armor, and then the game becomes very easy.
Yeah. Or you with your like 500 cores.
Yeah, exactly. And like, while I can't stack my 500 cores and never leave my power armor in survival mode, I can certainly get some, like, that was a weird thing that I did. Even aside from that, excuse me, the game got easier as I went on. Just because I was getting better guns, getting better mods on those guns.
Yeah.
And the difficulty curve doesn't really keep up with the power curve. I'm slightly concerned that I'm going to start this off and, okay, there's a dog, I better hide because that dog will literally kill me instantly, and there's nothing I can do about it. And then in 20 levels, I'll just be like, oh, there's a pack of super mutants over there. Prank, 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 done.
Yeah.
Like, it does concern, and I if that's the case, I do slightly feel like they need to even out that curve overall. Because it does feel
get there at this point, because right now you get one or two shotted by just about anything.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like it feels like it's harder for me to kill something than it is for something to kill me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. True.
Yeah. Like so I was streaming some yesterday, and I right away got this mission to go to the Corvega plant and clear out all the raiders that are there. And there's a lot of fucking raiders in the Corvega plant. Yeah. And so I went really super slow. I like cleared everything out, made sure I was only ever aggroing one guy at a time, which is not easy in that place.
Yeah.
got to the end finally. There was just the one like boss guy left, and I'm like sneaking up on him, and I come around the corner, and the second I see him, even though I have all the sneak talents I can get at the moment, he spotted me, turned around, shot once, hit me in the arm, which staggered my guy, and then shot again, which hit me in the head and killed me.
Wow.
And it was just like there was literally nothing I could have done there.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, he saw me, I died. That was it. And well, realistically, I probably could have like tried to come at him from a different angle or try to pick him off.
But
from
you had to start
distance
like
or something.
over.
Yeah, you have to start over, and I feel like you have to start over if you die. Coupled with the fact that if you fuck up at all and aggro multiple things, you're screwed. Is difficulty enough. They don't need to also occasionally have guys that can just straight up one shot you. That's my thought on it. I know
that's tough.
I know
man.
that I know that the ultra hard difficulty mode is too hard. It sounds like a stupid complaint, but I'm just saying what would be fun for me, I guess. Like maybe for me the ultra hard difficulty mode is a little bit too hard, but I like all of the other elements of the ultra hard difficulty mode.
Maybe what you want is like a checklist or something, so I could like disable no autosave or no quick save.
Yeah, maybe.
Or disable something else. Like that way you can tailor it to fit your needs. Cuz okay, I get what you're saying. It's like it's really hard. And you could see that there's value in that being stupidly hard, in getting, spending an hour getting somewhere, then getting one shot with absolutely no way to defend yourself. And some people might be into that. But for you want to enjoy all these other aspects of the game, and at the same time, get at least some of the experience of the new survival. So I think for you, some way of disabling certain functions or tailoring them would be ideal. And I think that's something that's going to happen.
Yeah, quite possibly. Or even just maybe survival mode needs its own like normal, hard, very hard difficulty slider on it or something that just affects what the creatures do in the world. The only thing that I would want to change is to slow down some of the ridiculously, like so many times yesterday I died to a dog that I didn't see just showed up and killed me. And eventually I was like, okay, I guess I'm just not going to that part of the world now because there's dogs over there and they're going to kill me.
Yeah.
And it's entirely possible, like I said before, that this is just because Fallout 4 kind of front loads its difficulty a little bit.
So I mean,
once I get a better gun and a couple pieces of gear, then suddenly this won't be, or a few more perks or whatever. This will stop being a problem for me at all.
Yeah, maybe it just wants you to spend more time farming one or two guys here and there, and building up your experience and building up your armor and going into your first mission, which you normally would take in the first 10 minutes of a normal playthrough. Wait hours until you're prepped to go into it, because every mission is going to be a trial.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to pass judgment on it at all yet.
Yeah.
Because I've barely scratched the surface of it. Yep. I'm still figuring out things that work at all. Yeah, it's really fun though so far. I do enjoy that sort of like I'm gonna bang my fucking skull into this for a while until I eventually get it sort of gameplay.
No, it's great. I love it.
I'm gonna really hate myself until I eventually get this, and it's gonna feel so good.
That's my favorite types of games.
So speaking of post-apocalyptic survival,
oh man,
I mean this one pretty much just directly goes right into it. The Division, Incursions, they announced a lot of stuff pretty quickly.
Yeah, in like a 40-minute stream, they announced all this great shit that's coming, and everyone's like pumped.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much like raids in Destiny, right?
Yeah.
With gear, light level type stuff, and all that.
Yep.
And you have a hard mode raid as well, a hard mode incursion, or challenge mode rather. So you have like your entry level, which is your level 31 gear. You can matchmake for it if you want, but it's high. It seems like it's highly suggested that you don't do that. And
I mean, it does have built-in voice chat in the Division.
It does,
unless you disable it because it shows your public IP address.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So it looks pretty exciting, and I think it's not just the incursion itself. Oh, I'm sorry. The biggest part of incursion is there are no checkpoints. That's the killer right there. Like if you team wipe, you're done. You go back to the beginning. You start over.
And that's good for that makes sense for the Division, I think, because there are so many ways to revive somebody in the Division.
Yes.
Like it's not like in even something like Destiny, where if you died in a shitty spot, it could actually be kind of difficult, and like 2 other people die trying to res you. Like if you get downed in the Division, someone can throw a thing at you that reses you, or someone can use their tag skill that reses you, or you can hobble back to somebody who reses you. Like there's so many ways to become alive again that I think it's okay if you team wipe, if you suck that hard that you completely wipe, then you start over. I think that's fine. I do kind of wonder what happens if if someone gets downed and like bleeds out. Are they just
It just takes longer to watch
you? Oh, is that all it is?
Yeah, it just takes a lot longer to res them. Like
okay.
5 times longer to res them. So
okay, that makes sense.
And you can't res them using like those remote throw bullshits. Like you have to actually stand over them and
you have to finish off the fight.
Rub their shoulders until they come back up.
Yeah.
So some of the challenge modes right now with the missions they currently have are actually really difficult, right? Not like crazy hard, but there have been a lot of times where we'll be in a pickle because someone will die and the rest of us are like playing games with the AI trying to get it to follow us around in like these back rooms, and it's not happening. And like we have this chick with a grenade launcher, just like boom, 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 just like pumping them out. Every time you come out of cover, it's boom, 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 and it's like nonstop, a rain of fire. There's been a lot of times where it does get really difficult. So I can imagine if the entry level is supposed to be harder than this, then challenge mode I think is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
And then there's go ahead.
Did they say how many people are going to be in incursions? Is it still the same group size?
Oh, you know what? I think so. I didn't see any note about there being more than the 4.
It's 4, yeah.
Yeah, it's just 4. It's just because it is mentioned group party. Nothing about. I think we all assumed 6, but yeah, it's 4.
They said 4 still. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, and then there's like the gear sets that they're introducing, like actual matching sets that give you perks and stuff, like in Diablo.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool, and like the challenge mode requires those sets. Like probably I would imagine it's probably not a hard requirement, but like you're gonna need this sort of thing. Like this, you will have trouble doing anything other than dying repeatedly if you don't have this gear.
Yep.
I actually also really like, just from a obviously coming from a background of being an extreme hardcore raider in World of Warcraft, I actually really like this first clear, repeat clear thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
Where the first clear drops really good stuff, and then you can go back and do it again, and it drops okay stuff.
Yeah.
Like you have your 1 clear a week in which you're gonna get the best stuff possible, and then if you can go back and repeat it again, and you might get some upgrades. You might even get it kind of sounds like there might even be a chance to still get some of that really, really great gear.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be significantly diminished to the point that if you're super hardcore about Division, sure, it's still probably worth it for you to go in there and clear over and over and over again. But you're not going to be a million yards behind if, say, for example, all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of World of Warcraft tournaments that you need to fly around the world to be able to commentate, and you can't attend the weekly Destiny raid anymore. If something like that happens to somebody.
It's something that I think everyone has been looking forward to since like near the beginning. It's like we knew that they were going to introduce raids because this game gets compared to Destiny constantly, and for good reason. And so I am excited to see that they're going to bring in raids. And here's the thing, because everything else about the Division gets compared to Destiny, that's a pretty high bar. for raids. Like they have to really, really deliver. It can't just be the AI just hits harder, shoots faster, reloads faster. It can't be that. It can't.
Yeah, like there's so much that Destiny did right with its raid content.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there were some issues, and like some of the raids, particularly Crota's End, was full of bugs for a long time, these are obviously bad things. But the overall style of the raids was so good, and like King's Fall is one of the best raiding experiences I've had in any game ever. Like, especially that final encounter and how they have its own music track that plays and everything. Yeah. So like you start pulling and you hear that like bom 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 bom, and it's like, oh god, man. It's go time. Yep. We've got to fight. And then it's like the dun 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 dun. It's like, yeah. Like even thinking about that music now like makes me want to go back and fight orcs again. Like that. The raid stuff in Destiny was so good. Honestly, I do not expect that Division will beat that. Not especially not with this first one. And I think people who are expecting, oh yeah, Division, it's gonna have raids and it's gonna be just like Destiny, it's gonna be so good. I think you're setting yourself up for a disappointment just because of how ridiculously good Destiny's raiding content was.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's what it says. It says the devs could beat hard mode, so they made it more difficult. The QC players needed days to beat the challenge mode incursion. So, what made I'm curious. I'm reading too much into it, obviously, because when you say we beat it, so we just made it more difficult. What made Destiny raids difficult was the coordination and the mechanics.
Yeah.
The guys hit hard. Obviously, if you step out of line, you're gonna get slapped, and that sucks, right? But so I'm hoping that they mean, because maybe there is room for error, but there is also a lot of coordination and a lot of heavy communication, and also mechanics that require proper placements, or maybe you have to pull like a switch or something on either side of a safe or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. But
and a lot of times, even something as simple as increasing the health of a bunch of ads or something really changes how you play, how you approach an encounter. Mm-hmm. Or maybe this ad, like you see it all the time in WoW, like this ad on normal mode does an AoE thing that kind of hurts, maybe don't stand in it, whatever, like we'll heal you through it, it's fine. And so you don't really factor that into your strategy, whereas as soon as you go in on heroic mode or mythic mode, like all of a sudden now this AoE ability that this mob does will wipe the raid. So you start going, okay, now instead of thinking about how can we do the most damage to the boss, now we're thinking about how can we control this ad while still getting some damage in on the boss. Mm-hmm. So I don't think just the fact that they said we'll make it more difficult really, it doesn't mean that they're not changing up. It doesn't mean that making it more difficult doesn't change up the strategy and require all that extra coordination to actually pull off. Yeah. Like you even think about in Destiny, I forget the name of the strike, but there's the one at the end that has the giant ogre that you have to kill. Oh. He's really super bullet spongy.
You stay in the room and you shoot him.
Yeah. But then like if you stay in the room too long, things come from behind and start to kill you. So yeah.
I try to Google it, and the video comes up. It says giant ogre of laser forehead death ray.
Yeah,
summoning pit. Yeah, full god.
Yeah,
full what the god. Hell? Giant ogre of laser forehead death ray.
Yeah, I mean that's the most accurate thing. Yes. But like when you do that strike on like the first time through, you do that strike, you're just kind of like, whatever. Okay, he's a bullet sponge. I gotta shoot him a bunch. My friends are all dying again. Hang on, let me go res them and everything. But when it's the nightfall, all of a sudden it's like, okay, ads are gonna come out from here and here, and we need somebody watching those to kill them.
Yep.
And at this point, you're gonna get his attention so that he chases you, and then I can put a bunch of damage into him, and he's gonna turn around and shoot at me, and then oh god, these ads are gonna come out. Okay, make sure you have your super ready, etc. And obviously, once people got some gear, that stopped being an issue at all. But those first couple of days, man, that was difficult. So yeah, I totally. I'm looking forward to seeing what Division actually does with the incursions. Like I said, I don't expect it to compete with things like Vault of Glass or like King's Fall, just because those were such a almost cinematic experience working through those. And just comparing, like if you compare the missions in Division to strikes in Destiny, like the strikes are a lot more involved in a lot of ways than the Division's missions.
Oh yeah.
Because like Division's missions, for the most part, boil down to go to this room, kill a bunch of guys, go to this room, kill a bunch of guys, etc.
Yeah.
Push a button, hold out for a while, kill a bunch of guys, defend this guy, kill a bunch of guys. Whereas in Destiny, like you could sort of distill everything down to kill a bunch of guys, kill a bunch of guys, kill a bunch of guys. But there were things like, and then there's this giant fucking tank that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And you have to run anyway.
Well, yeah, Destiny had the benefit of having these mythical alien crazy creatures where they could have a gigantic ogre or just a super large version of something else, right? They had the benefit of that. So when you're dealing with a largely realistic game in terms of theme, you don't really have that option. Like your toughest guy is going to be a dude that just has 2 flamethrowers instead of 1. And he's just slightly fatter than the rest, right?
Yeah. You're not gonna come around a corner and there's a 40-foot tall Riker standing there.
Yeah.
Like that's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
There was, I guess, in the main storyline, there was the helicopter encounter, which was definitely different than other stuff. Which was cool.
That's right. It was. Yep. Because it did have phases too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So maybe they dial that way up for the incursions, and I would absolutely love to see that be what happens. And I'm very, I guess, optimistic, but not getting my hopes up. I guess is about where my thoughts are in terms of comparing Division's incursions to Destiny's raids.
So April 12th is when we'll see that. So that's going to be...
It's really soon, too.
Two Digi-Who's away.
Yeah. That's really soon.
Yeah, it's April 12th. Yep.
Holy shit, that's the same day as Destiny's content update.
Is it really?
I'm pretty sure it is.
No, Destiny's April 11th.
Oh.
Hold on.
That makes a difference.
Let me check. Let me make sure.
No, the April update is available on 4/12/2016 for all Destiny to Taken King players. Oh my god.
That's hilarious.
That is some straight up... So,
that's some straight up Blizzard shit right there.
I was about to say that's some straight up Blizzard shit there, but now I work here, and I've discovered the truth, which is that we have no fucking idea when anyone else is doing anything. Like, okay. True story. I don't remember what it was, but there was something that we did on top of the Heaven's Ward release. I want to say it was like patch 6.2 or something. I don't remember. And the fact that I don't remember what it was should indicate how much thought we actually put into it. But it was the sort of thing...
Into the date.
Yeah, like yeah, obviously. But it was the sort of thing where, like, we found out from people accusing us of lining it up with Heaven's Word that was when Heaven's Word was releasing. It was one of those, like it was what was really interesting is it was a date that we picked because we were trying to dodge other Blizzard things. Like, not because we were trying to land it on top of Heaven's Ward, but because, like, Hearthstone was releasing a thing and Heroes was releasing a thing, and it was like, okay, there's all this other stuff going on, so we need to not release our thing. Like, it would be dumb for say for sake of argument, there's Overwatch is releasing on May 25th.
Right.
It would be really dumb for Blizzard Entertainment to also launch Legion on May 25th.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously that's not, obviously at this point, if Legion was May 25th, we would have announced that date because that's pretty soon. But like, if there were the option to release Legion on May 25th, that would be a really stupid thing for us to do because Overwatch, and we'd rather not compete with ourselves. And if that means that, like, whenever the date ends up slipping to as a result of trying to dodge, I say slipping to the date, I should be clear. the date was never May 25th for Legion. People are gonna read way into
Legion
everything
May
that I'm saying
25th.
right now. Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of times that's what happens is Blizzard just trying to dodge other things and ends up landing on top of something that we didn't think of.
Yep.
And as dumb as it sounds, like as dumb as the idea of, oh, there's no way that Blizzard didn't know when Heaven's Word was coming out. We had no idea. We weren't even thinking about it.
You have your own problems and your own like freaking collection of IPs now.
Yeah.
It's no longer just WoW, SC2, and I mean that was pretty much it.
Yeah. WoW, SC2, Hearthstone.
No, I mean
Heroes,
like when we were doing like
Overwatch.
Legendary, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it seemed suspicious then, but yeah, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Fine. Yeah. Confirmed Half-Life 3 release on May 23rd.
There you go. Right here. Digi-Who.
Digi-Who. Fucking Digi-Who. So anyway, speaking of The Division,
Yeah.
by which I mean speaking of a game that... Where do I go with this one? Speaking of The Division, by which I mean speaking of mathematics, by which I mean speaking of an increment in numbers, so we'll say addition, by which I mean, which is, by the way, is what that's called, by which I mean speaking of making something larger, by which I mean the resolution that can be output by a PlayStation. We learned some more information about the supposedly rumored new upcoming PlayStation 4K.
Yeah.
As it's being called, because it's supposed to increase to 4K resolution. So the first thing that I should say about this is absolutely 100%, 1000% rumors. This is coming from a NeoGAF forum post. But there's a guy in this NeoGAF forum post, and he seems legit, question mark? Like, I honestly have no idea how legit this guy actually is.
Right.
But I have no idea who he is at all. Anything whatsoever. No clue. However, he did post a bunch of stuff that seems plausible, I guess is a good way to put it. So he's talking about how he was in some sort of meeting that they had, and he actually says was waiting for it to be approved before posting, which almost makes me think that he got the okay to post this, which was weird.
Well, that means they have their own verification system, kind of like how there's like AMA verified on Reddit or something.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
But it's NeoGAF approving it, so we don't know if that's a verifiable source. Yeah.
But the rumors are interesting.
They are.
And it's worth talking about at the very least.
It almost seems like, as much as it would suck as a PS4 owner, I could see this being their way of basically edging out the Xbone in just pure power. They already have the VR coming, and the PS4, they had it on demo. It works. It does VR, and it does it well. And in some cases, it does it better in terms of refresh rate than the Vive or the Oculus. But it's still powered by the PS4. So for them to come out with a PS4K is something that is totally plausible.
Yeah. So just going through the sort of notes that this guy has posted on this NeoGAF forum thread. Says price is currently $399.99, so $400. They were discussing a better CPU, which would raise the price to $500, but they were guaranteed the price will be no higher than $500. He specifically says they mentioned the CPU upgrade quite a bit, almost as if they haven't really decided on a final spec. Could be a pricing issue. So $400 for a brand new PS4. He also said there's currently no plan for any type of trade-in program for current PS4 users, but that could change.
Oh, that's GameStop.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly what I was going to say. There is a trade-in program.
Yep.
It's GameStop. You take your PS4 down to GameStop. You say, "Hello, I would like to no longer have this and instead have a PS4K." And they go, "Okay,
Best I can do is $350.
$200." Yeah, exactly. Like they'll give you probably $150 for a PlayStation at this
I'd
point.
say, yeah.
Is my guess.
Yeah.
That might drop if it's because everybody is giving them their old PlayStations.
Yeah, it'll be like the rocks what is it called? The Rock Band gear.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take that anymore because everyone was bringing them in. They were like, "No, we can't take it. We're done."
Yeah. We literally cannot sell this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do you feel about? Well, I guess before we talk about the price point, we should talk about what you're actually getting for that, which makes sense. But just initial gut check. As a PlayStation 4 owner, how terrified are you of having to drop another potentially $500 to get a slightly more better PS4?
A slightly more better PS4. You know what? I probably wouldn't.
Right.
If it came down where if I felt like the value on my current console was going to diminish if I were to sit on it for too long, I'd probably sell it. Because I've already made that mistake with the 2 Xbox 360s that I still have sitting here, that are both fully functioning and fine. So I would probably just jump on the opportunity to sell that PS4 now if they announce the PS4K. Like that same day, that bitch is up on eBay. I'll put it on fucking eBay so fast.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about some of the stuff that will theoretically come with this thing. GPU is twice as powerful as I'm going to stop putting in the according to this forum post and the this is just a rumor but sort of stuff at this point. Just understand that everything I say from here on is just a rumor and according to this forum post. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Has a 4K. Excuse me, I skipped a line. GPU is twice as powerful as the standard PS4 and much faster. Didn't say exactly how fast, but that it was running at a higher clock speed while being much smaller than the original. So, much better PS4 GPU, apparently.
Yeah, it's a PS4 Slim.
Yeah. 4K Blu-ray player, and will upscale games that are not natively 4K. So that's good. It means that if you have a 4K TV, if you're one of the 7 people that has a 4K TV at this point, then you can still play your Witcher 3 or whatever.
Yeah, it'll just
really be unable to read the UI.
Yeah, it'll scale it up the same way that it just takes it and stretches it out. The same way that 720p scales up, and that's pretty much it.
Yep. There was talk of some sort of VR lounge for the Meteor Player app, which is supposed to be getting a substantial upgrade. I don't know what that means, but my imagination immediately says I can sit there in a VR theater sort of thing and join other people in a VR theater, and we can all watch a movie, quote unquote, finger quotes in the air together, which would be interesting. Or maybe it's just I get to move around in VR and select what media I want to see.
I don't know. I don't know which one it is. But as ridiculous as the idea of sitting in a VR theater with other people sounds, because the phrase that pops on my mind is, well, who's gonna get the best seat? Like
this is a way to watch a movie slightly worse than if you just put it on.
Yeah. It's like, why would I want to get a shitty seat in a virtual environment?
It does kind of seem like the best case scenario. You cannot tell that you're in a VR environment.
Yeah. But being able to watch movies with friends is always fun, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have that friend that has to say every line before they say it in the movie because they've seen it 1,500 times. But other than that, it's actually pretty fun to watch movies with friends. And now with all of our friends being online, it's rough. I mean, there's a lot of shows that you and I probably watch that are the same, and that Shizzle and I watch that are probably the same. It'd be great if we could watch them together and bullshit while we watch it in some capacity. Yeah. Sure, we could sit here on Skype and play Netflix or whatever, but this is basically introducing something that's a little bit closer to a virtual, basically a reimagining of what what it would be like if Laura was here with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and even just being able to sync, like, some friends of mine in my guild, we have a movie night every so often where we all watch a movie at the same time, but because we don't have a way to just sync it all together, like, we're all like, okay, you ready? I'm gonna count down 10, 9. You're doing the whole janky, like, everybody start at the same time, and then like someone's like, oh god, I have to get up and use the bathroom, so everyone's like, okay, pause. And like someone will show up and they'll be like, oh, what part are you at? And we're like, oh, we're at about 1 hour and 12 minutes. And it's just a mess. So even just having the ability to say, okay, we're going to play this movie, and it's going to start at the same time for everybody that's watching it, would actually make that sort of thing really easy.
Yeah, and they have sites that do that, like these party view sites.
Yeah.
But that's still, you're in a text chat room, or you're on Skype, or you're in Discord or something.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to watch something through Netflix on one of those. Like, we'll all be like on Netflix. Okay, we're gonna watch this movie that's on Netflix. Everybody started at the same time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so through those third-party things, obviously you can't say, okay, third-party website, use Netflix. I don't know, maybe there is.
Oh, actually, there is.
I'm
being pinged right now. Says there's an app for Chrome that syncs video playback in Netflix.
Oh,
so there you go. But that's
really
not
cool.
the point. The point is reimagining the environment in a virtual setting. That's the point, is to be able to almost feel like you're not necessarily feel like you're sitting there, but it still would be different than sitting there and like I would see Devil Lore in the corner of the screen, right?
Yeah,
like I would actually see your avatar or whatever next to me.
Yeah. This does sound like the nerdiest way to watch
it is.
It
does. It sounds so dumb, right? Like it sounds. Can I use the move controller and reach over and kind of like I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of.
Are you molesting me with the move controller?
That's kind of the point, right? I mean, I'm curious. Well, anyways, so what?
I'll have a VR bodysuit I wear that gives like little pokes.
You could poke a hole in the bottom of the popcorn and stick the move controller in it.
Oh my god. I mean, it's the right shape. Anyway, it was stated plainly and with no room for interpretation that there are developers that already have development kits for the PS4K and that they are making games that will directly target and take advantage of the higher specs of the PS4K. It was also stated that these games will in fact work for the PS4, but with considerable sacrifices made to performance. So this is the bullet that really scares me about this whole thing. If Sony really wants to push this PS4K, does that mean that people who have a PS4 are just going to start getting games that are slightly shittier?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what they get now. It's like they get the developers make games that scale, and they would just have to make it scale down. I think the thing that we as PC players and as potentially PS4K users should be cognizant of is that developers might make it so that the dominant console, which would either be the Xbone or the PS3 or both, right? That the look of it on the graphical settings on that and the fidelity and whatnot on those consoles is going to be what everybody sees, no matter how powerful your console is. I think that's going to happen before anything else.
Yeah. The concern that I have is just so. Here's an example. I have Assassin's Creed Black Flag on my Xbox and also on my Wii U for #reasons. I have lots of games on my Wii U that look great. Like Mario Kart looks great. Great frame rate the entire time, unless you're playing with 4-player split screen, which I can slightly forgive. Smash looks great all the time. Splatoon looks great all the time. Like, there are games that work really, really well on Wii U because they were created for Wii U. The graphical quality of Assassin's Creed Black Flag on the Wii U is garbage. It looks like it was made for a GameCube. Like, that's how awful it looks. And that's just because the game was not created for Wii U. The game was created for PC, for Xbone, and for PS4. And then it was just ported to the Wii U. And so basically what ends up happening is when you create a game for a better system than what it ends up getting played on, it ends up being actually worse than it would have been otherwise. So like imagine if The Witcher 3, which is a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Imagine if The Witcher 3 had been created for the PS4K and then backported. All of a sudden you have frame rate issues, even more than there. I guess there were some frame rate issues with it for a little while, but even more, like massive frame rate issues. It's now, it can't break 30 frames per second ever, or the graphics get all pixely, or the texture quality has been dropped by a ton. And that's just because like things like storage space, things like how much memory is available and so on, like you actually run into a lot of problems backporting something that was never created for this specific console. So that's what I'm worried about, is that coming out with a PS4K suddenly means that games on the PS4 that are designed for the PS4 look shittier.
Yeah.
That's what worries me.
That makes sense. It sounds like on both fronts there's just going to be potential for a mismatch of different issues that we're going to see.
Yeah. It was also made very clear that current games would not be getting any type of performance upgrades by being played on the system, and any benefits to older games would come via patch per game and per developer. That makes sense to me. It's just basically saying if I go and install, I just installed Mass Effect the other day. I'm not expecting Mass Effect on my computer that I built in 2012. Wow, this computer's actually kind of
unmodded Mass Effect.
Yeah, my unmodded Mass Effect. I'm not expecting it to suddenly look way better than it did back in 2008 or whenever it was Mass Effect originally came out. Like, that's just how that works. He has a list of some games here for the PSVR. Eve Valkyrie, which we already knew. Robinson, I don't know what that is. GT Sport, sounds like a racing game. Cool. For the PS4K, Deep Down, which I haven't heard of, but apparently that was a game that was around and then wasn't, or something.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. And then apparently God of War 4.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Guy says there were more games on the list, but these are the ones that stood out to me. He does have an edit at the bottom, which I hadn't seen until I loaded it today. Says the word sacrifice is being blown out of proportion. There are sacrifices made when making a console version of a game as compared to a PC game, or when making an Xbox One game as compared to a PS4 game. Don't expect PS4 games to all of a sudden become shit. Just expect them to run better on PS4K. I would expect a game that is really pushing the graphics envelope to run at 1080p 60 FPS on PS4K, while the same game might run at 900p 60-30 FPS on PS4.
So that's an improvement then.
Yeah, that's better. I find it a little bit. I find it kind of funny that he used the example of a game that's really pushing the graphics envelope on the PS4K, which is so named for its 4K resolution, that he said 1080p 60 frames per second. It's like, okay. I would expect a game that is really pushing the graphics envelope on a PS4K to run at 4K.
Yep.
But yeah, this is interesting. I am eagerly awaiting any additional information. E3 is coming up pretty soon at this point, I think. I think that's the next big conference that we might expect to hear something fancy.
Oh, E3?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll see what is...
I'm just trying to remember if there's anything else coming up
There's
before
PAX East, like next month, or April 22nd or something, I think.
Yeah,
and then which I'm not going to expect anything from a major console. Like, think of E3 and you think of Sony and Microsoft. They have the big green booth facing off of the big blue booth. They're always right next to each other. There's that hallway that everybody takes a selfie on or in because they're both like lit, and if they make any kind of major console announcement, it's gonna be at E3.
Yeah, like I know from a developer standpoint, like Blizzard, we tend to not use E3 to announce things, and not the entire reason, but part of that is because anything any game developer announces at E3 often gets stepped all over by Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo. So it's kind of like Okay, this is where they make those big announcements. So that's June 14th through 16th. So June 14th. I kind of expect that if this PS4K, again, if this is even real, like this is all just rumors at this point, but if the PS4K is even an actual thing, that's when I would expect to learn more about it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of the PS4K, by which I mean speaking of having to purchase another PlayStation, by which I mean speaking of ways in which I like to spend all of my money, Clash Royale. This article came out today on, I believe it actually originated on Polygon. They just went and they said, you know what, let's. Oh wait, no, it was originally from a Reddit AMA. There is a guy by the name of Chief Pat, who is the #1 player in Clash Royale right now, which hasn't been out very long, I should note.
Yeah.
It has not. It's been out for like a month at this point. Really, not a very long time. He has spent $12,000 on Clash Royale. Now,
yeah.
To give a little bit of extra like note on this. Chief Pat is a YouTuber, if you're not heard of him. And he has a YouTube channel called Play Clash of Clans. Surprise. And he has over 1.7 million subscribers. So, like, for him, and he even says, I never regretted it because YouTube is my job. It's a business expense, and I got to show off all the coolest shit for my subscribers. You dig?
You dig.
And so once you've got 1.7 million subscribers on YouTube, that's kind of the point where you can start to put $12,000 towards a business expense, like
absolutely
spending a lot of money, like especially because it does become a business expense at that point, which means you get all sorts of tax breaks and stuff on it.
Yep.
It does not count towards your actual salary for the year in terms of your actual income.
Yeah.
Which means that he pays less taxes. So I would expect that $12,000 to actually work out to be more like $10,000, which is still a lot of money for sure.
Oh,
but it's different than if I were obviously I don't create this stuff for a living. Actually, that's a bad example because I'm still able to actually claim lots of the. So if like a car manufacturer decided to spend $12,000 on it or something, but still that's $12,000, and he is in first place.
Yeah.
On Clash Royale, and so part of the reason I want to talk about this is. That's a ridiculous amount of money to spend, and this is what these sorts of games are designed for. The reason that they are often actually pretty decent to play for people who don't want to spend money on them is because there are enough people who will play them that will spend $12,000 on them. Like
the whales.
Yeah, exactly. The whole the whale thing, and it's kind of like. When the line of thinking then becomes, okay, well, this person is playing for free, but that doesn't mean they're useless. That doesn't mean that they're not contributing to our profits. It just means that this person is now our product instead. Like this person who is playing for free is an opponent for the people who are not playing for free to beat in this video game.
Yep.
Essentially. The other reason I want to talk about it is because everybody's immediately been like, oh, pay to win just because someone spent $12,000. So, okay, look, you can spend $12,000 on Hearthstone. You can spend $12,000 on Heroes. I don't know how, but you could theoretically spend this amount of money on Hearthstone or Heroes of the Storm or League of Legends or anything along those lines. Like, it's actually not hard to spend $12,000 on League of Legends, as an example. There's so many things that you can buy in that game. No one calls League of Legends pay to win. And the reason is that there are things built into the game that prevent it from getting to that point. And there's very much the same thing in Clash Royale as well. Buying stuff, it'll speed you up. That's certainly true. And when a game has just come out, speeding up is a pretty significant advantage. In another 6 months, no. Like, in another 6 months, the people that have not gotten sped up will have had an opportunity to catch up to this guy at this point.
Yeah.
And that's just how that works. And I don't personally have an issue with that. Like, it's not like being number one on the Clash Royale ladder for however long this guy can stay there is that big of a deal to me. I don't know. It just kind of seems like, yeah, I don't know.
So I wish I knew more about the game to like comment on it in terms of like pay to win or whatever.
You haven't been playing? God.
No. And it's just time.
Yeah.
But just looking at his stats and his growth on his YouTube channel, like I could totally see why he's throwing money at himself. Like he's gained in the last 30 days, he's gained 87,000 subscribers. He's gotten 17 million views in the last 30 days. That is a huge number of views.
Yeah. And now he's got a Polygon article that's entirely about him.
Yeah, exactly. Here's how many views that is, actually. My lifetime views on my AKA Mike B channel is actually 18.9 million. And that channel's been pretty successful.
Yeah.
For the past 8 years, right? And here's this guy in 1 month. He's just about made same amount of views. That's nuts. So yeah, he's definitely turning that money into him. So I would do the same thing. Yeah. Because, like that's the kind of thing that people look for. There's if you have the money to invest in yourself, like you can very easily make content that's going to pull viewers, right? As long as you have all the other aspects of it too, right? Like, personable editing skills, production, all that good stuff, right? Then the last part is obviously money. That was the same thing with like Warframe. It was like I was dropping a whole lot of money in there at first, and then the developers were like, hey, we'll just give you these things. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm going broke with these things. But because I was dropping money on it, the hundreds of thousands of people that were not willing to drop money on it first, they wanted to see it in action, they would watch the video, right? And so it's smart, like basically taking that money and dropping it on yourself if you have the rest of it, the rest of the package pretty much ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, just from a pure like self-investment standpoint, like looking at his numbers and his growth and everything, like I mean, I'm surprised that's all he's spent on it, like because that's how much money he's made this month.
Well, yeah, and it's the sort of like there isn't like the way that the game works out, and I'm not trying to like make excuses for the game or anything, but the way that it works out, there's a point where more stuff you can't get more stuff. So that's probably why he hasn't spent more than that on it, is because there's a point where now you have all of your things upgraded as much as you can, and you're just not going to get any better stuff. Yep. It's kind of like a character boost in WoW. Like, sure, you can boost yourself to level 100. You're not going to get to level 101 after that. Like, not until the expansion comes out anyway. So, there's a much further to go. So yeah, it's interesting. And I'm not going to say that the game isn't pay to win either. Like, I've played a fair amount of it at this point, but I haven't played enough of it to be able to really tell. Like, I'm still I'm hovering at around 1,500 trophies, which is basically rating in that game, which is about the midpoint. So I'm not great at this. But still, yeah, it's a fun game. And even if it is a little bit pay to win, screw it. I'll catch up eventually and it'll be fine. I don't need to spend. I guess the other question is what's number 2? Like, how much money has guy number 2 who isn't running a YouTube channel spent on this game?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, Clash Royale. It's really fun. We have a clan in it that I accidentally named #DGYHU. It's full at the moment, but if you see a space open up, you can only have 50 people in a clan.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which is really annoying.
Right.
Like that's my least favorite thing about the game, honestly. But yeah, check it out. Game is pretty fun. So, speaking of, I don't know. I have no idea what this is. What is this thing? Speaking of things that I don't know what they are. What is this thing that I'm constantly highlighting in our document right now?
I was hoping you'd like trail into a giant segue to nothing, so I could just cap it off and like play into the theme of the site and everything. But yeah, it's cool.
I mean, okay, so I can just, I'll just start going.
There you go.
And
there you
stop
go.
me when I hit something that's relatively close.
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay, so speaking of Clash Royale,
okay.
By which I mean speaking of strategy games, by which I mean speaking of minions that you summon to fight each other, by which I mean speaking of military warfare, by which I mean speaking of wars that drag on forever, by which I mean speaking of things that are way too long.
Yeah.
Did I get there?
Yes, you got there.
Yes.
So TLDR.
the TL has already happened.
Yes, the TL's already happened. So a bunch of the refugees from our previous employer, we got together.
Ooh.
You know some of them. We have Cody, we have Dolby, and we have Alayton.
Oh, cool.
We got together and we decided to make a site, just kind of like a side project, right? Just like let's just build this site because we know how to, we've obviously done this before. Let's come up with some unique idea and make a site that's low maintenance, but obviously something new and different and is useful and can scale with just about everything. And it's actually called TLDR. Yeah, you actually used it today.
I did.
You
I
didn't
I had
even know.
never seen this before. Yeah.
Yep.
I had no idea.
The site is TLDR.gg. We right now it's super bare bones. The basic functionality is there. There's a handful of categories. But here's the idea. One of the biggest problems when you go to like guides and such, and this exists on YouTube too, that's why there's the Wadsworth constant, is a lot of times you have these, at the beginning of a guide, you always have like this story or something. It's like, here's like a story about why I wrote the guide, the history of this guide, whatever, right? You don't care about that stuff. You just want to get to the meat. This is what I want, right? How do I do this? Blank, 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 blank. And that's it. Boom, done. And it could be a step-by-step guide to do something. It could be a bulleted list of things like that to base. Like for example, you were using it for incursions. What to expect with incursions? Everything you needed to know was there in like 1,000 characters or less. And the idea is that every step, you have a maximum of 7 steps. So you can have 3 steps or 7 steps, and each step has a maximum of 200 characters.
I like that. I like that a lot. It really forces the TLDR.
Yes, exactly. And it just makes it so that it just cuts the bullshit and it gets right down to business, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've been working on it, and we had it passworded up until this morning. We decided to open it up and just to kind of invite a couple people in and take a look. And I was like, hey, I'll just talk about it on the show tonight. And let people come in, and if you want to go in there and you want to make an account and make a couple of guides for what we have up there, or if you want to make suggestions on whatever categories you want to see in there, like BDO or any other game that you're playing, let me know. Like hit me up on Twitter or in Discord, or you could ping Alayton in Discord. Actually, he's in there as Kittens. But yeah, man. It's just like I was watching a video last night of how to do motion tracking in After Effects, because like I learned something in After Effects and then I purge it immediately because I never use it, right? And I was watching this thing. It was an 8-minute video, and the last 30 seconds is when he actually showed what it was, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is the worst. This is like the best example of how this site would actually would just completely eliminate that, like the fluff, the bullshit.
Yeah. I have to say, as someone who used to make a living making video guides, I can't do video guides. I just can't. Like, and it kind of makes sense too. Like, you got to figure, for a very large portion of the history of Tank Spot, there were not other video guides available for the encounters that we were killing. Mm-hmm. So like, I was reading stuff to be able to actually kill the encounter and then make the video guide for it. But for me, like, this site here is exactly the sort of thing that I want, where I'm just like, okay, yes, just put things in a list for me. Give me some bullet points so that I can read those bullet points, and that's how I will absorb this information. Like, I'm looking at there's a Fallout 4 section, and I'm looking at how to stay healthy in the Commonwealth, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so great. Like, get the lead belly perk. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Get bottles. Yeah, take the Idiot Savant perk. Like, this is all great stuff, and it is definitely in my, like, Twitter is my favorite social media network because of the forced brevity.
Yes.
And so this, like, making a guide that has to be super short, this is actually kind of awesome. I'm a big fan of this. I hope it does well. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll be pushing it a little bit. Over the next, probably not over the weekend, but like next week, just to kind of introduce people to it. It's something that, people can get in there and just start making guides, start building whatever. And if they have suggestions or feedback or whatever, like if you don't like the design, throw us some ideas. We're definitely open. It's super early. It's an idea that we think could definitely work, not just in games, but we could scale it in, like, you can make, anything you can make a list for, like the Tesla Model 3 announcement. I could break that down in a TLDR guide, easy.
Yeah,
the whole thing. You don't bother watching 45 minutes of smoke and Elon Musk up there presenting and going back and forth, and then finally showing the car. Like, just boom, 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 boom. Here's everything you need to know.
Yeah. And like, there was a big long Destiny stream today, and everybody was talking, like, I never ended up watching it because everyone was talking about how boring the stream was, even though they were showing off new stuff. I would love for someone out there, someone who may be listening to this, to go to TLDR.gg and throw together a here's what they announced about the thing in the thing the other day guide on Destiny. That would be great. Someone should get on that, please, because I sure as hell haven't watched it. Well, cool. This is really neat.
Yeah,
I like it.
Thank you, and obviously thanks to Leighton and Cody and Dolby. They're breaking their backs. I made like 7 guides and told people about it. That was it. That's what I've done. Yeah, it's great. It's great. And we actually have. We haven't even told anybody about this part either, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. We already have social accounts set up for it. And you're going to love this. So the idea was, so the Twitter account is TLDR Please. And what I wanted to create, and also on Facebook, it's facebook.com/TLDR Please. And it's PLEASE, not any abbreviation of that. The idea is I want people to get into the mindset as the site grows, whenever they come, like you just said, like, the Bungie, the Bungie stream was long and boring at TLDR Please, right? And then TLDR Please can like retweet it, or somebody, somebody that we have can go through and summarize something in a TLDR format guide, and then tweet it out, and boom, done. I want it to be like, you say, let me Google that, right? I want it to be, wow, I'm not going to watch all that at TLDR Please.
Nice.
So that's the Twitter account. I don't think anyone's following it because we were keeping it under wraps for so long.
I was your first follower a couple of seconds ago.
Yeah, I think I can go ahead and follow it now.
Yeah, now there's Fomio and Kalamuna have joined in as well.
We'll have to spruce it up a little bit with some graphics and such.
Yeah, I saw the egg and I was like, this can't be what he's talking
about.
That's it. And then you said what it was, and I was like,
okay. Yep. So yeah, more on that probably soon. Speaking of, I'm actually very interested in your board game thing. Is there any updates on that yet?
Yeah, I can actually give a little bit of updates for it.
This is like the most
Yeah, this is basically the masturbation episode in which we talk about how awesome we are.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that I have. There's a lot more that is going on with this that I haven't talked about yet, and a big reason for that is I kind of need to be able to present. I think I was talking last time I talked about this. I need to be able to present a complete idea, and talking about just bits and pieces doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. Like, I have 6 ideas for classes right now, and I've been working out what those classes are and how they're going to work and how that translates into gameplay and so on. But, like, it's highly possible that I decide not to go with 6 classes, or I come up with a different class, or I remove several of these and so on. And having worked as a community manager for long enough, I know how bad it can really be when you give people a little bit too much exposure to the development process early on, because you have an idea that you think might be cool, you can't figure out how to make it work, and it's just not working out to be actually good and fun and enjoyable, so you drop that idea. But if people knew that you had that idea, they immediately imagined it to be the most amazing thing it possibly could be, and then they don't get it, so they're upset because they haven't gotten this amazing thing that would have never existed in the first place. So that's why I've been a little bit hesitant to really spill too many beans just yet. But let's see. I can probably think of something. So a while ago, I made a video blog where I talked about the idea of adventure decks for these things, and sort of trying to come up with the idea of here's a deck that you can play through that kind of it creates an adventure for you as you go through it, and it's random, so it's in the same sense as a procedurally generated adventure in a video game, right? Like, it's you're pulling these cards, you're putting them down, and it's like, okay, your quest now is to do this thing, go and do this thing. Okay, in order to do that thing, you have to fight a dragon or something. This is a great example of one of those ideas that I had that I thought was really, really great, and I started working on it. And I was really having a lot of trouble figuring out how to make this make any sense whatsoever. Like, when you're in a town, the original idea was that you would have like a location would be where you were, and then depending on your location, like you would flip over a card, and depending on what your location was, it would do all these different things and so on. And it was getting very, very difficult to figure out a good way to avoid the, like, there's great examples of ways that it works out, like the idea of, okay, you're in a town and you've gotten a quest to go kill some rats in someone's basement, so then you move to somebody's basement and you're killing the rats in there. That's easy enough. Or like the sort of working idea I had was, maybe you're in a town and you get a quest to find the robber, and you just start exploring different locations, and eventually you find the robber and you get him. The issue was, what happens if I'm on a quest to kill a dragon and the dragon card just doesn't come up? Or what if I'm on a quest in a town to bring some medicine to somebody, and all of a sudden there's a dragon in the middle of the town? Like, the sort of I almost kind of call it the dragon problem of what happens when I'm doing something and then something ridiculous that doesn't make any sense whatsoever happens, because these cards are all random, and I don't want to just say you can never face off against these strong monsters or anything, but how do I put that into that position? So the idea that I'm working with at this point is to actually split that up a little bit more. And again, this is all still in that preliminary point of I haven't figured out exactly how any of this works just yet. So once again,
oh my
entirely
gosh,
possible
this sounds
that
like
I will
a
scrap this entire
nightmare.
thing. Man, designing games is so much fun. You really, the best part about designing games is realizing that everything you've come up with so far is garbage, and you have to throw it away and start with something new. But the point that I'm thinking at this point is that there's kind of 3 sort of levels of playing this game, and not in terms of difficulty necessarily, not in terms of reward again necessarily, but just different levels of how hardcore you're really taking it. At the top end of that, we have you're just using a GM, and the GM is just making everything up. And they're like, okay, much like a DM in a regular pen and paper game. Like you have the dungeon master, and they say there's an ogre here, so you have to fight this ogre. That's kind of the top level. At the bottom level is a sort of slimmed down version of the original adventure deck idea, which is more along the lines of, this is just a dungeon crawl sort of thing. Like, think Diablo. You go into you go into the desert in Diablo, and there's a bunch of mobs around everywhere, and you punch them, and sometimes you run into a rare, or sometimes you run into a boss, and you punch them, and you get loot. And it's just sort of a loot grab thing, and you can go as long as you want in this, and it's just kind of a way to level up your characters, and it's sort of just grind almost, going through these, I don't remember exactly what I was calling them, these low level, like, I wonder if I can find my notes actually, because I want to remember the name.
This card game needs its own podcast.
It seriously, I've been trying to do.
This sounds like a nightmare. I don't ever want to do what you're doing.
Yeah,
because you're doing it all yourself. You're not even like bouncing it off of people. And are you like do you have a board or something like that with like just sticky notes all over? Or are you just kind of like bouncing them in your head?
I have a folder in Google Docs that I dump a bunch of stuff in. Here it is. So that mode is what I call an unassisted adventure. So it's just literally, you don't need a DM, you don't need anybody in charge at all. It's just, I've got my 3 friends, and we're just flipping cards and fighting things over and over and over again until we collect loot. And at some point, we want to go back to town to sell off our loot. And that gets into a whole different other thing that I had to figure out, which I'm actually really, really pleased with where I've got loot now in this game. For the time being, until I finish making the rest of the game and decide that the way loot works is terrible. I'm going very Phil Fish on this whole thing.
Dang.
But I came up with a sort of middle tier of what I'm calling an assisted adventure, which is actually very similar to if anybody who ever played the WoW TCG, there were these like raid decks that they had where someone would play as Onyxia or someone would play as the Molten Core. And so the idea is it's a self-contained adventure deck, but the whole thing is kitted around a specific module. So you're like, okay, this is the Temple of the Sun deck, just as an example.
Right.
And the DM will have several cards in their hand, and they just play these cards in a particular order. And they can say, okay, you're going to fight somebody now, and something will prompt that you're going to fight somebody now. And the DM goes, okay, here's the mobs that you're going to fight. And it ends up being kind of a cooperative process. The DM's goal is not to kill the players. Like, it's not a versus thing so much. So much as it is their goal is to get the players as much loot and experience as possible without killing them. So they want to put them in harder and harder situations. They want to put the players in harder and harder situations, but they don't want to put it into too difficult of a situation because then they'll die. However, the harder the situation they can complete, the more experience they'll get, the more loot they'll get, and so on. That one's complicated, and I still have a lot to figure out in terms of how that'll actually work.
Are you going to? The biggest question I think people are having is, are you going to put this on Tabletop Simulator?
Maybe. I don't know. Probably not.
Would you care if somebody else did?
It depends.
Yeah.
Honestly.
No, I get it. I totally get it.
Depends on how much of it is available. Like, if it's, well, no. I don't want to say what my future self will or will not have an issue with.
There you go. That's a good answer.
Because at this point, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, just not a clue. I could easily see a situation in which I put all this work into creating something, someone else puts it on Tabletop Simulator, and then that's what everybody does to play it. And now I've put all this effort into it for nothing. Yeah. So I'd rather that not happen.
I get it.
I will at some point start doing like early alpha stuff. Like I'm calling it alpha, but that'll probably be like a I'll make a PDF that has a whole ton of cards in it, and you can take it down to Staples and get them printed out, sort of thing.
Yeah. And
then at some point after that, probably after I do, my plan at the moment is still to do a Kickstarter at some point. Once I've got that version of the game into a playable state, then I will start up a Kickstarter and probably have a tier of the Kickstarter in which you can get an early actual printed on nice cards version of the game. So,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, it's it's kind of coming in bursts, but every once in a while I'll have a couple days where I'm like, oh my god, I come up with so many awesome ideas, and then it'll be another 2 weeks before I have another awesome idea. So, yeah. I'm excited. I really want to get, like, I'm at the point now where there's so much that I know about the game, but I haven't quite figured everything out just yet. So I don't want to say too much because it's entirely possible that as I continue to put the pieces together, something will just completely not work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, it sounds like a complete and total nightmare.
Yes, it's
but I'm
really
happy to
fun,
hear
though.
that I think there's progress there.
Yeah, there's definitely progress. I literally just the other day I was, this was like 5 days ago. I was actually working on another document for it with some ideas for classes in it, and started fleshing out what the unique mechanics of each class will be. So, yeah. I'm hoping that sometime in the next month or so, depending on my schedule, I'm hoping to put together a sort of like maybe something written, maybe a video, probably something written that explains the world in a lot more detail and what's actually going on in the universe of this game, which helps make a lot of other things make sense. Yeah.
Cool. Well, all right. I look forward to more.
Yeah. Yeah, I will ping ideas off of you all you want. Like I will tell you everything.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say it on the podcast.
No. It's fine. It's totally fine. I get it. I totally get it. No, that's cool. That works. Well, I think we're done masturbating. For today.
Do you have any other things you'd like to promote before we call
I know, right? It just totally was not planned. It was just all happened.
Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/devilorb.
We've had a very productive week, I think.
Yeah. Seems like lots of things are happening. And also remember to believe absolutely everything that you see in the next 24 hours.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So, okay. Hang on.
Oh boy.
Hang on. I have a very small rant here, and I promise I won't take long. I promise.
Go on.
There's two types of ways to do April Fools. Okay? You can do April Fool's jokes, or you can do April Fool's pranks. April Fool's jokes are funny, and people recognize that it's not real, and they laugh at them, and they move on about their day, having been enriched by the experience of being told something funny. April Fool's pranks just means you're an asshole, and you're looking for any excuse possible to be an asshole. That's my rant.
So, okay.
So when you're like, April Fools, everybody, we did funny voices at the start of this podcast. Like, nobody actually thought that no one went, oh, what's going on? They got new hosts. Meh. Like, that didn't actually happen. And if it did, it wasn't for more than a couple of seconds. If we'd started this off and been like, hey, everybody, welcome back to Legendary, the podcast that we're doing again now. Hooray. Like, people would have just been pissed off because then they would have found out that there's no way that's ever happening ever.
Oh,
Sorry,
that's true.
spoilers.
Yeah, that's kind of mean, I guess. I don't know. You know, it's like, I think everyone's got different level of sensitivities, right? As we've learned on the internet in the past couple years. But April Fool's seems to be the most, people tend to get the most sensitive about things. And for me, it's just like, if I see something, it's like, oh man, that's dumb. And I just like, whatever, you know, like the Razer toaster, the breadwinner or whatever they're calling it, right? The bread something. It was a Razer toaster.
Yeah, like that's not something that anyone would think is actually real.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
That's not a prank.
The
if Gabe Newell went on Reddit and said like, "Hey everybody, we're releasing Half-Life 3," that would just be Gabe being a dick.
that would
And that would be Gabe being an ass, and we wouldn't be working with him again.
Oh man. Yep. Oh, here's Blizzard's. World of Warcraft Ultra Premium Orc Statue by Blizzard Collectibles. $100 million. It's on your site right now.
Yeah, no, that's legit. Oh wow, they sold out of them already.
So,
That's amazing.
somebody will be upset by this.
I mean, we've got one already. It's in the courtyard at Blizzard.
Is that not the one?
I think that one was the prototype, and so now they're producing them for other people. But I mean, obviously they've already sold them all. So
Right.
yeah.
All right, cool. Well,
All right.